situations in the state where these different legislators are, on a regular basis, they're brought in the offices of these groups. If they happen to be Republicans, they're told they're forced to take a pledge at the time of their election in the primary. You must pledge never to increase taxes, never, under any circumstances. Do you pledge? But no, do you pledge? Okay, I take the pledge. If you don't take the pledge, you don't get the support, you don't get to be an office holder. And if you break the pledge, you get recalled, and they're very successful at recalling people who break the pledge. On the other side, on the Democratic side, you've got the other groups, some of the other groups that you mentioned, who bring him in and say, look, we got you here, and we'll get you out. We have very long memory, and so this is how we expect you to vote on this. But no, this is how you got to vote on this, and we're watching it. We keep score. We're very good. We're very good data keepers. So this has to be fixed. The public wants this fixed. I mean, this situation you described cannot possibly be something that the average citizen, tax-paying, citizen would want. But that's the situation that they have. That's why we need a constitutional convention to start again, and to see if we can come up with a system that would repel such forces, or at least do a better job. There's always going to be influence. We're not going to cure that. But we can do a much better job. It's come to a place where it's unacceptable.
For example, if the U.S. has a structural deficit, dollar weakens, interest rates go up. Here you're coming in with 50, 100 billion more in debt. If you go bankrupt, for example, that wipes the slate clean. But what kind of strength do you have from all the past initiatives, the deficits that we have, to in fact do something meaningful going forward?
Well, we don't actually have deficits in California. We're not allowed to have them. So we don't have what's technically a deficit. We borrow, but it's not called that, as it is in the federal government. And so what we have is a financial system that's rooted, rooted in these various tricks in the state. And as a result of that, our bond rating has been lowered and lowered and so forth. So we're starting from that position. That can change. The day that the legislature, the governor, decide to be responsible for the way they manage the place, the bond rating will start to go up, because at the end of the day, there's confidence in California still, because everybody understands the tremendous assets that California has, the ingenuity, the innovation, the higher institutions, California's ability to exist as a leader in Pacific Rim trade, and so forth, and the education level of the citizenry. There's a lot of assets that this state has that others only wish that they had. And so it's not a hopeless situation. It's just we have to get a grip. And we've come to a place where things are broken. And these aren't things that can't be fixed. A 2/3 vote, a 50% vote, I don't think most people would really lose sleep about this. It's just we need to have a budget in place. We need to have systems in place that when people pay their taxes, they have a higher degree of confidence that the money is going to the right places for the right reasons. We need to have some system in place where Sacramento can manage. It's a very big state. I mean, this is like the 6th or 7th largest economy or 8th largest economy in the world. It's big. That there can be some management system put in place that's a serious place. We need to, the young gentleman that mentioned the legislators and how they feel in their jobs, that they don't have the power. We have to figure out a way to do the opposite, which is the instinct that we have. Right now we're angry at the elected officials and we want to disempower them. But that's not probably the solution. The solution is probably to allow leaders to lead. And term limits have seriously reduced people's ability to lead, because you're out of a job unless you do what other people say. And so we need to find some balance in there. We can do those things. These are common sense type solutions. The initiative system is good. There should be checks and balances on government. Government at times has done some really poor things, been a bad actor. But we have the most robust initiative system in the world. And at times we spend money. We, the public, we get talked into creating new programs without having to put up what the source of the revenue is. We probably shouldn't be able to do that anymore. And so we have to accept the fact that maybe we, the people, shouldn't have quite this much power. That if we want to have an initiative, the legislature should have its day in court with that initiative. That maybe there's a sunset provision on all these things. It comes back to us in 5 years or 10 years to see if it did the trick. This is basic stuff that other states do. We don't have to invent it. We just have to look around. There's a National Council of State Legislators. There's actually 49 states in the country. We do some things better than the other states do. We lead on a lot of things that other states are behind on, but when it comes to governance, some of them do better than us, and we don't have to invent it. We just have to see which states those are and why they work better, and copy it. And so I don't think this is, there's a lot of really smart people in the room. I don't think you have to be that smart. I don't think this is rocket science. I think it's about creating a system of social confidence in the state, which would allow some change to take place in issues which really aren't heart issues. Because it's about governance, boring to most people on most days.
Who were some of the groups or people who have spoken out against this, and what have been their major arguments or cases, and what have been some of the best arguments against it?
We haven't had too much in the way of defined opposition yet. And I think the reason for that isn't that it's not there. It's that as a constitutional convention, it's a pretty homey idea. And so why be against it if it's not real? Until we raise the money and we qualify the measures, I don't think we're going to see too much real opposition for them. That said, we worked, as I said, with a lot of groups kind of from the middle, good government groups, and some groups on the left and the right during the process. They gave us ideas on how we could put this together in a fair way. And we took their ideas. In some cases, the groups bolted when we didn't take all our ideas. They wanted it their way. And we said, no, but we like this idea. And sometimes in politics, what you do is say, well, unless you stick with us, your ideas don't matter. We didn't do that. We actually kept people's suggestions, even though they left the process, some of them particularly on the left and on the right. So after we finished this, and we said, here's our measures, and we submitted them, there was a very good blog from a group that was with us for most of the time called the Courage Campaign. And it's a sort of an internet-based, sort of a MoveOn.org offshoot. And the guy who wrote it, very bright guy named Robert Cruikshank, he worked with us, and it was a very not surprisingly well-written blog. It was cogent, well thought out, on point. And he basically made and the premise was, clearly, this was a constitutional convention that had been developed strategically by the political right. This was a right-wing plot all along, and that's why they bolted from it. I took that in stride. I could understand Robert's feelings and so forth, because they didn't get everything they wanted. The next day there was another blog that appeared from an anti-tax person, a right-wing, what we'd probably call a right-wing group. The blog was cogent, well thought out, on point. And the premise was that obviously the Constitutional Convention, as we had put it forward, was clearly a left-wing plot. You get the idea. I felt good. I really felt good. Because I knew we'd done a pretty good job. When I saw those two things, I was buoyed. I go, okay, we did exactly the right thing. And since that time, we've had very little even constructive criticism about the way we've put this together. You can read these measures on our website, which is repaircalifornia.org, or you can go on the Attorney General's website. They're there for you to read. The first one is very short. It gives us the power to call a constitutional convention. It's 1 page. The second one is, I think, what is it, Alonzo? 16 pages, something like that. So it's a little bit of reading, but it's not a book. Read it, and you'll see the process. And it's probably not perfect, but you'll see that it's really driven to try to get the best out of people and to truly be diverse and to think about that. That's a very, very important issue, that this convention needs to be about California. Not the California that some groups might like to think it should be, but the real California. We took steps to try to assure that as best that we could.